He sucks at football. 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 He sucks at.
Sorry, Scott, it wouldn't stop. I tried and tried and it wouldn't stop.
That's all right. That's all right. Welcome in, guys. You guys all know me. I'm a Run the Hurry Up on Sleeper. This is my co-host. He goes by Trader Clem on Sleeper. He's my co-host in some of the podcasts that we do going forward. So we're just going to break down this draft for you guys. I let Sean know the scoring system, and that he can help evaluate the draft. So this is our, God, if I remember right, this was I think we started back in 1995. So this is our 30th year doing this draft. We've had people come in and out, obviously. But it's been a really good group of guys, very competitive. Joe's done a great job with the managing these leagues, and we're old school. Everyone laughs at us, but we like putting the stickers up on the board. And Sean laughs at me all the time. You know, why do you need to go put the sticker on the board? And I said it's the walk. It's the walk that does it. So I don't know how many times we've had guys.
As long as you don't mix up the name of the player that you're actually trying to draft.
Exactly. We had one this draft. Actually by the commish, and we'll talk about that later.
So that means that it got reversed.
Yeah, we gave him a free pass. We felt bad for him. His team was bad enough as it was, so we let him get a free pass. So, anyways, all right, we'll break this down real quick for you guys. We're not going to do the whole draft. We'll probably go to round 12 because it looks like one of the teams kind of went in auto draft mode, so it might have affected some of the draft picks going forward. So we'll go to round 12, and then we'll just kind of just do a brief overview of the last couple rounds. So looking at it here, going from 1 to 12, started off with Ja'Marr Chase at number 1. What we'll do is we'll go through the first 6 picks, and then the next 6 picks, and then we'll do some analysis and go forward. So look like when Ja'Marr Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Bijan Robinson, our defending our current champion, Cheap Thrills, from last year took Jahmyr Gibbs, and then Saquon Barkley and Justin Jefferson. So that were the first 6 picks. What do you think about those 6 picks? I mean, it was interesting that Blowout went a little aggressive with CeeDee Lamb, and I like that pick a lot. So what do you think about this first 6 picks there, Sean?
You know, I mean, from what I understand, based on what you were telling me about your your scoring system, running backs don't quite carry as much weight in your setup as they do in a kind of a typical PPR setup. So I would probably, I would lean towards the CeeDee Lamb earlier than normal. I just don't know if I still take him over Bijan. And the reason I say that is I just think, like you've talked about multiple times, that Bijan has just had like that kind of it factor about him when it comes to this season specifically. I mean, he might have that 2,000-yard potential. Granted, it hasn't really started out great. It's been good. I mean, geez, what was the first 2 minutes in the first game? He comes out with like a 60-yard touchdown catch, like on a screen or something like that. And you're like, oh, here we go. The year of Bijan starts now. And then, last week it was, it wasn't bad. It just was pedestrian, I guess, mediocre. So it's kind of like up in the air still whether or not that's going to happen. But I think I just still would lean towards Bijan. But it sounds like you experienced man in the league, have a difference of opinion. So, if anybody's right, it's probably you.
Yeah, I would have been on the fence. I mean, I like the CeeDee Lamb pick, but I also like the Bijan pick. I think second deck was in a great spot because he was going to get either or. So, I think the best.
So had Bijan gone out, you think CD would have definitely been the next pick?
Oh, see, he already said second. He already had CD already penciled in, so he thought it was going to go Chase and Bijan, but yeah, so he already said that he was penciling in CeeDee Lamb. So CeeDee Lamb was definitely going third. As far as the rest of those picks, I think it's pretty elementary.
Yeah, I don't see anything else that I would say is too crazy about it. I think that's pretty much your top 6 in almost every league.
Right. So we'll go the next 6. We'll go Ashton Genty, then Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua. I ended up taking Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Devon Chan. To me, where I was sitting at 10, I was a little nervous because I wanted either Malik, Puka, or St. Brown, and I didn't think that he would get to me. So I was going to be in a real tough spot because I really didn't want to take a running back. I really wanted a receiver, so I probably would have passed on all those running backs and Bowers and probably taken Collins at the 10th spot. But because Stickman helped me out there and took Ashton Genty, which I would have never taken, in my opinion, taking a rookie.
Is he a Raider fan or anything like that? Is there any
he just
reason that might have happened?
I mean, he's probably just drinking the rookie Kool-Aid. I don't know, but regardless, he did me a favor, and I was
that always tastes good preseason, but usually by the end of the season, it's soured.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I think that probably was the weakest pick out of the first round, Ashton Genty. What do you think about the final 6 picks in that round, Sean?
I think that, looking back on it, obviously hindsight makes it look like an amazing pick. I think the Malik Neighbors pick at the time, though, was definitely probably a controversial pick. I'm sure he got some flack for that from a few of the buddies there, because that's not a guy that, with the dudes on the board, Puka, Amon-Ra, even the 2 running backs that went off after him, Henry H. Those are guys that people, for the most part, are taking, either ahead of or right next to Neighbors. So for him to be the one that goes off the board first out of that group, to me, feels like that was a little bit of a stretch at the time, just because of the unknown nature of that offense with what was coming. But the way that Russell's been just willing to fling that ball up in the air, I mean, I think he got a lot of flack after week 1 from, everybody just saying basically like, this is what you're known for. Why the hell are you not doing that still? And he came into the game a little freaked out from his previous, few years where he's just not been the same Russell. So I don't think he had it in him week 1, but week 2, I think he just said F it and went out there and just started flinging the ball up and seeing what happens, and Neighbors rewarded him for it. So now that happened, I do think that's going to continue to happen throughout the rest of the season. And now the Neighbors pick looks great. But early on, I promise you preseason, if we did this before the season started, I would have said that you ended up with the best option out of the 3. Being that you were in the end and that you got the top guy out of the group, I would have been like really excited for you. But now that I look at it, both Puka and Neighbors have had such good starts so far that I don't see any reason why they couldn't be just as, if not better than St. Brown in the long run anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. So it's basically, in my opinion, just the Genty pick.
Definitely the one that I think the entire first round was the one that I would probably call the lowest grade.
Right. So, but other than that, everything else is pretty elementary as far as like first round goes. We'll move into the second round. We started off
Sherlock.
Pardon me?
I was just referencing a Sherlock since you said elementary so much.
Oh, so we'll move into the second round. It looks like we had our first tight end come off the board, Brock Bowers. And then when Christian McCaffrey, so dead money, went 2 running backs right away. I ended up with Nico Collins, who I did say I would have probably taken in the first round if I would have been if those 3 receivers weren't on the board for me. Josh Jacobs, I really like that pick a lot. I'm very aggressive with Josh Jacobs this year. But in this format, I don't know if I would have went that route. I might have doubled up on receiver. Brian Thomas looked like a great pick, but he's off to a slow start.
Until the season started, yeah.
Yeah, I think there'll be better days going forward with Brian Thomas Jr. We got Drake London, Kyron Williams, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and then Honey Badgers doubled up, stacked Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. So, Sean, we're going to go the first 6. Bowers, McCaffrey, Collins, Jacobs, and Thomas and London.
So I would say that the best picks looks like so far out of that bunch, it looks like it's CMC right now as far as the way things are going, but Jacobs is not far behind him at all. The other three guys are definitely off to slower starts than we were hoping for, right? I definitely think that there's potential and they're going to be fine. It's not like the end of the world, the sky's falling or anything on them. But I definitely do think that they're off to a scarier start than we wanted, especially where we took them. Bowers being the first one off the board out of that group. There was a time when Bowers was going no later than like 110, and then he dropped to the or to the late first, early seconds, and then it seemed like towards the end he was going all the way down to the top of the third. So Bowers was probably one of those players that was all over the draft board throughout this preseason. And to see where he ended up going at this point in time, it feels like maybe that it went a little bit early based on how everything's looking, but I can understand why he went where he went. So I'm not like super upset about the pick overall, but where it is and everything like that, I probably would call that the pick that, I think is a little bit of a reach. The one that I really think I don't care for a lot, in my opinion, is the Burrow pick. I understand why it was made. I get all that, but there is no way in God's green earth that anybody but Josh Allen should be the first quarterback off your board. So when it's a guy named Joe Burrow, not even a guy named Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry, man. That is an egregious move. You could have sat the way the quarterbacks were falling. You could have taken two players right there and probably still got Joe Burrow in your fourth round pick. So there's absolutely no reason to take him over the GOAT of GOATs in the league at the moment, Josh Allen, JA17, the greatest quarterback playing football.
Got you. Well, you heard it from Bill's Mafia. Right from his mouth, but obviously we knew he wanted to stack Ja'Marr Chase, and actually he said in the draft that if Chase Brown would have been available, he would have taken Chase Brown over Jonathan Taylor. So he was going all in on the Bengals. Now, obviously, the news with Joe Burrow that he's pretty much out for the year, so that's kind of a rough.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate, and that's not something that you can prepare for. So, I understand why. And let me tell you, dude, honestly, that stack, Ja'Marr Chase and Joe Burrow, won me my other league that, I'm a part of with some of my friends that are close by. We do the same thing you guys do every year in that league, too. It's not my big league, but it's like my second big league, really. And that league, I ended up winning it last season on the back of the Ja'Marr Chase, Joe Burrow stack. So, I don't hate that stack at all. I actually really do like to lean that direction because it is such a high-powered offense with such a shitty defense. So I'm good with that stack. I just don't like the way you did that stack based on the situation that the draft board gave you.
Gotcha. Now, nuts and bolts, he took Tyreek Hill pretty early, in my opinion, over guys like A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, JSN, Ladd. Now, obviously, Ladd's off to a slow start. AJ's off to a slow start. T with Burrow out.
It's not like it's any slower than what Tyreek Hill's had so far, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had a good game yesterday, and he had a decent game in week 2. You wonder what his mentality is going to be going forward if they continue to lose games. I mean, it could get better. He could get traded down the road and be on a better team down the road, but.
I think that's going to happen. I really do. I think that there's two players, in my opinion, that will be traded before the end of the season or the end of the trade deadline this year. Tyreek Hill and David Njoku.
Got you. So, do you think that was a little aggressive with Tyreek Hill, though, going before those guys?
Yeah, I do. I think especially before A.J. Brown. That's the one that I think really is like the whoa, if you're talking a receiver scenario, I want the guy that's going to be on that offense that is going to be successful. There were so many questions about what Miami was going to be putting on the field this year. So I would have for sure went with A.J. Brown over Tyreek Hill. Like that one would have been like a no-brainer for me. And there's a couple of guys that went and that we'll talk about here in a second that I would have probably gone over him as well, just because I like their potential this season a lot better. So far it's proven to be the case, but. Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. I think Tyreek Hill was probably the reach on this round. If it wasn't for Burrow in that scenario being what it was and upsetting me so much, I probably would have went with that as my worst pick in the round.
Got you. Now, just from doing a lot of drafts this year, like you, the third and fourth round have been so volatile with players going all over the place. So we'll run through the first half of the third round. and we start off with Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, JSN, Ladd. There's your boy Josh, and then we went. And then the dynamic duo took Lamar Jackson. So, what do you think about those next 6 picks? I personally really like the Jonathan Taylor pick. I think he was going to have a pretty good year this year, bounce back, and he's already started off to a hot start. I'm a little nervous about Ladd McConkey going forward, just because of the target share now that we're seeing with Quentin Johnson deciding that he wants to catch the ball this year, and then a resurgence of Keenan Allen, especially in the red zone. I'm a little nervous about Ladd, but what do you think about those 6 picks?
Well, I have a definite favorite, and I'll save that for the end of my rant here for a second. And no, it's not Josh Allen. I'll say that, though. It's not Josh Allen. I do love Josh Allen to death, but I'm sorry, man. I'm just not a guy who can take a quarterback that early and in a 1-quarterback league. Just not the way I can do things. So I don't hate the quarterbacks that you guys take, because those two are literally Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are the ones that if anybody should go early, it's those guys, because they are pretty much running backs with the ball in their hand as well as quarterbacks. So, I don't hate those picks as much as, I would as far as quarterback is concerned. I'm just not an early quarterback guy. So that being said, if we focus on the 4 players, Jonathan Taylor, T. Higgins, Jackson Smith, and Jigba Ladd McConkey, I think they're the right 4 to go in that grouping. I'm just not 100% on that order. One guy specifically I think should have been gone a lot sooner, and that's JSN. I don't think JSN should fall. I don't understand what happened with him. He was going early in drafts in the early parts of the offseason, and then all of a sudden as we got close to the season, people just started fading him. I don't know if it was the being on the Seahawks and not knowing what's coming with the Darnold passing the ball thing or whatever, but he started dropping on drafts behind guys. I don't think he should have gone behind T. Higgins, only solely because of target share. There's no way T. Higgins with Jamar Chase on that team was ever going to be able to match what JSN can bring in target share. So I would have gone JSN over him in a heartbeat. AJ Brown has another, 1B behind him just like that. So I would have probably leaned him over that. Potentially that's like maybe my dropping point for the most part as far as receiver. Tyreek Hill for sure. I would have taken him over him. I wasn't a Bucky guy early in the season, so I would have taken him over Bucky. Maybe not Jonathan Taylor, depending on my build, but I really do like him over the other receivers I mentioned. So that's the guy to me that's like the best pick in this draft, and I'm hoping that it continues to show that I'm right, because so far so good.
Got you. All right, let's do the next 6. We got James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Jalen Hurts. I ended up taking Mike Evans, George Kittle, and DJ Moore. I went with the 3 receiver build. I always try to go receiver heavy in this.
And remind me your lineup. How many flex positions do you have as opposed to just straight up receivers?
3 receivers, 2 flex.
Okay, so you could start 5 technically if you wanted to.
Yep. So obviously James Cook stands out because of the start he's off to. If you're looking at receiver, even though Stickman's off to a slow start with J&T in London, he's making up for it in James Cook going forward. And then, you got Alvin Kamara, another running back. Thought maybe it was a tad early for him, but what do you think about the next 6 picks there?
I agree with you. I think the Kamara pick might have been a slight bit early. I understand him wanting to make sure he gets a running back because he probably felt like that James was the guy that he was targeting the most. And then that was probably his guy. Probably was like, crap, now what am I going to do? Went back and forth and just went with the next running back on his board because he wasn't sure 100% what the best move would be to do now. So I can understand why that might have been the case if that's really where he was at as far as positional targeting. But Jalen Hurts, coming off the board again, I think he's him, Jaden Daniels, I would have probably swapped if it was me. I think Jaden Daniels is the guy that I would have taken as the next quarterback off the board, in my opinion. But, Hurts would have been right after him, so I don't hate it. Your pick is good. I like your pick with Mike Evans. I felt like with Godwin being out, he was going to have a really good start to the season. Hasn't panned out that way because Mbuka has turned into a stud, but, that's not like for sure going to be the case moving forward. It's just because Mike's probably been double teamed and then Buka was getting one-on-one coverage. That'll probably change now after these first couple weeks. So Mike might come back to where he's open again. We'll see. Baker will have no problem getting the ball out of his hands if he's open. I can guarantee you that. So we'll see how that plays out with him. The George Kittle pick over Trey McBride is not something I would have done. I would have to say out of the 6 picks, that is the one that I'm really not happy about. I just think that McBride would have been a better target than if you're going to go tight end at that point. That's the one I go for. So otherwise, the rest of them are kind of falling into place. The DJ Moore pick is, not looking as good as it was just because of the way the Rome is looking right now, but I still like it. I still think he's in an offense that's going to score a lot of points because they're going to have to. So hopefully Caleb gets his, together, but that's a sign for another round or a conversation for another round because we'll talk about Caleb when we get there.
Got you. So, all right, we'll get into round 4. In this round right here, we start off with DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. I end up with Trey McBride, Omarion Hampton, James Conner, and there's Jaden Daniels. Now, I knew after the Kittle pick that if Kittle would have been McBride, I was definitely going to go receiver next round. Probably, I don't know, I don't even want to say who I was going to take. Probably would have been Garrett Wilson or Harrison, somewhere around that range. But I knew once the Kittle pick was gone that I knew I was getting McBride because I knew that Bowers was gone already to one and done. Dead Money already took Kittle. And unless one of them did like a double tap at tight end and was going to play one in the flex, I knew I was going to get really good value with Trey McBride. So I think in those first 6 picks, not to toot my own horn, but I definitely think I had the best pick in Trey McBride, and that might have been the best pick in that round.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that it's definitely a pick that is in contention. And as I'm looking through it, I don't want to talk about the other picks too much yet, but I definitely do feel like you're right about the fact that it could be that pick in this round because it's a good one. The only one that I would say out of those 6 that honestly I don't think there really is one. Maybe Omarion Hampton you could say was like a little bit of a grab there, but he had a Josh Jacobs already, so I don't mind him taking the reach on the rookie with the high potential, potentially low floor but potentially really high ceiling too. So I don't hate that with a nice steady hand like Jacobs in your running back room to stabilize it. So it's not terrible either way. And then, like I said, Jaden should have gone after the other 2 guys before Hurts, so I don't hate him taking him there either. So yeah, you guys all kind of did a good job on that round right there. That 6 picks definitely shined, in my opinion, for the value that as far as what they're concerned.
Okay, and then we went on for the rest of the 4th round into the 5th. We went on a nice wide receiver run. We went Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams, and George Pickens. So I think you can. I'm not sure. I mean, if I truly like the Jameson Williams pick over Tet Devontae, I may have taken one of those guys maybe over Jameson Williams. But like I said, in this league with the bonuses and the long routes and long touchdowns, and Jameson had a ton of them last year. I don't know if it's the way I would have went, but I don't hate it. Everywhere else, all the other picks, I'm fine with. I mean, would you have taken Devontae Smith or Tet over Pickens?
Tet, I'd probably take over all of them, except for those top 3, Garrett, Harrison, and Adams. I'd probably take Tet over as the next guy behind those ones. Just because I think that target share again was that even if he's on a bad, it's like a Neighbors thing. Even if he's on a bad offensive, target share is gonna be so good that he's gonna get the opportunity to catch 8 to 10 balls every week. So, and it's turned out so far to be the case. They've been getting their butts kicked, but he's been getting his. So, I definitely think Tet would have been my target after those 3 receivers went off the board. And then the next 3, I think I can understand their reasoning behind why they probably took them. I just wouldn't have gone that route myself.
Right.
my favorite pick of that 6 is probably, it's like a tie between Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison. I think those two guys and the target share potential that they had, the number one wide receiver potential that they have talent wise, I think those two guys would have been my favorite 2 picks in that 6.
Got you. But going into the 5th, even though we don't maybe not like the Jameson pick that much, he did. Tom did get Devontae Smith, and then Joe just did get Tet McMillan, which actually was Jalen McMillan, and we didn't figure that out until later on in the draft. So we bailed him out and let him switch to Tet.
Oh, so he put the sticker up, and then the draft continued, and then when somebody went to actually take Tet, that's when you guys realized it?
No. So he put Jalen McMillan up there, and then later on in the draft, somebody wanted to take Jalen McMillan, not realizing that he's out half the year, but was looking for him, and then realized they said, "Oh, nobody drafted Tet McMillan. He's still here." And we're like, "No, he's gone already." He's like, "Well, the sticker's right here." So we found out later.
But everybody knew that he was intending to take Tet the whole time and all that. So it wasn't like somebody tried to draft Tet thinking he was on the board.
No.
And then was like, "Oh, now I got to change my pick." Okay, yeah, that would have been a different scenario altogether.
No, we just wanted him to squirm in his seat a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's what I would have done that too. Yeah, that's great.
So we just had to make him because he was like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?"
You should have made him like run around the block screaming, "I'm a dumbass" for at least like one rotation or something, just.
No, we told him that he got a break. Everybody knew what we were doing. So, but we decided next year. Anyway. We decided next year that person's going to get fined $20. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So
I like doing like public humiliation things, but you guys are obviously nicer people. It must be the difference between the West Coast East Coast thing, huh?
Possibly. So, all right, we'll roll into the 5th round. It started with TreVeyon Henderson. We've talked about Devontae and Tet, Ken Walker, Xavier Worthy, and Chuba Hubbard. So this round, obviously, TreVeyon Henderson's off to a slow start. I
would have called that the best pick of the round if it was after the draft or after the, between the draft and the start of the season, but now it's not looking so hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early, and Mike Vrabel's just a terrible coach, and he's not playing his best players. So I like TreVeyon Henderson.
It surprises me. I thought he was a good coach when he was at Tennessee, too. I don't understand why he's just all of a sudden falling apart here. But
well, I mean, he's never really developed anybody that he's had under his, coaching wing. I mean, all he had in Tennessee was just he had the best player in the league, basically, Derrick Henry. So he just ran him to death. And he never developed anyone. I mean, Tannehill never really developed. Trevion Burks was a bust. I mean, they really didn't have anybody. So you got a guy that you took in the 2nd round in drafts, and you're not even using him. So, but anyway, so and then Chuba, the pick for Chuba, I really like Chuba a lot. He's off to a slow start, but I mean, I thought that would be a really good pick. And then obviously Worthy getting banged up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, right now it looks like Walker and Tet are the 2 best picks out of that bunch, just the way that things have played out so far.
Exactly. So all right, we'll go to the second half. We got Breece, and then Jacoby Myers went. DeAndre Swift. I took Zay Flowers, Jerry Jeudy, and then I can't read that last one. What was that last one?
Ricky Pearsall.
Oh, Ricky Pearsall. So what do you think about the next 6 picks?
There's definitely some picks where I feel like maybe the alcohol started kicking in or something, because you got some confusion going on with like who should have gone ahead of who here. There's no way on God's green earth that Jacoby Myers should have been taken in front of Zay Flowers. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are or where you're from or what language you speak. You should never be doing that. It's just not the right move ever. So I don't understand how that ended up happening, but it is what it is. You ended up getting the spoils there, getting your hands on Zay Flowers like you did. I think that's definitely the best pick. It could potentially be the best pick of the round, in my opinion, because he's the number 1 on a high-scoring offense. You can't ask for much more at this point. I don't really see anything else beyond giving that guy best for hit, taking Jacoby Myers where he did. I think Ricky Pearsall might have taken over Jerry Jeudy based on offense, and there's probably some guys coming up that I would have taken over one of them too. I can actually point out a couple of them already, looking at the next few picks. So, we'll roll into the next round with that in mind, and we can talk a little bit more about who I would have gone for ahead of them here moving forward.
Okay, let's go to the next round. We got Emeka Egbuka. Going next, we got Bo Nix. I took Isaiah Pacheco, which now they're looking back, I think maybe I should have went a different route. Calvin Ridley, Baker Mayfield, and that looked like Travis Hunter. So going back, I didn't want to wait too much longer on an RB1. I wanted to at least get an RB1. But as the draft fell, I think I maybe could have waited one more round. I didn't want to play chicken, but I was debating between Pacheco and then just go ahead and taking Baker Mayfield at that point, locking down my quarterback. But did you think I made the right move, or do you think I should have waited? Took the quarterback or took another position? And what do you think about those first 6?
So I probably wouldn't have gone with Isaiah Pacheco, honestly, because not that I don't like, the offense that he's on or anything. I just didn't have a lot of faith that Pacheco was going to be able to come back and be that player he was. I just wasn't seeing it yet out of him. I started leaning a little that direction towards the end, and I would have taken him, but not that early to me, not as my RB1. So for me, I feel like maybe, once Breece goes off the board, because, this happened to me in a couple of our leagues that we draft together, and Breece Hall ended up being my number 1 RB in a few leagues because of exactly the same situation that you just have happened to you, where you couldn't pass on the talent that came your way. But I look at your picks and I know like there's not a single guy on that board that you took that I would have been like, oh, you shouldn't have gone there. I think they're all like the right pick at the time that you took them. So you ended up in a position where this was that time for a running back. It might just not have been worth it anymore. You could still play one more receiver. You could have went with another receiver there. I wouldn't have gone with Egbuka because you have Evans. But, that would have been where, like you said, Mayfield, maybe to lock down that stack of Mayfield and Evans and then have like a really solid group there and come back around for a running back. Yeah, I think you would have been better off. I mean, the way people were looking at Pacheco, there's a chance he might have fallen back to you for all you know. Some people were really high on him. Some people didn't even want to draft him.
True.
So that's the only thing I have to say about that. Other than that, I want to say real quick, I do like the Baker pick a lot. I think the Knicks pick is a good pick. Also, that is where I would start looking at taking Knicks if I was going to go in that route. And then Baker being on the board still for you there was a good pick, I think, also. Travis Hunter is a guy that I really liked. It's not panning out the way I thought, but at that point, I would have been happy to have him if I had the opportunity to get him. And Calvin Ridley, target share-wise, I still, even though he hasn't done great, I still think he would have been a great guy to have based on how many passes I think are just going to come his way. So that would be my take on that 6 that we talked about.
Got you. All right. Next 6, we're looking at Michael Pittman, David Montgomery, Jalen Waddle, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones Sr., and Rashee Rice. So to me, going back to the rookies, drafting rookies that early, I just didn't want to really invest in drafting rookies that early, especially like even though it's his 3rd running back, I think he probably could have went a different position. I probably would have taken a shot on Rome, get a 4th receiver, or possibly start looking at maybe a tight end, which he did grab Hockenson in the next round. So I probably would have grabbed one earlier. But
no, you sure you're not looking at that through rose-colored glasses because of the last few weeks that you've seen where he's been basically non-existent in their offense? Because I know Caleb was considered the RB1, like most likely in that offense.
Yeah, but I even the way I drafted, I never drafted. I think I only had 1 or 2 shares of Ashton Genty, but I didn't, and maybe 1 share of Omarion Hampton. But other than the other guys, I didn't draft any of them because I wanted their backups. I thought that Jaylen Warren was better. I thought that J.K. Dobbins was better over R.J. Harvey. So, and then obviously Quentin Junkins was out, so I liked trying to get Dylan Sampson later. So I didn't really want to invest in rookies, especially that early. So I just thought maybe he could have went. I mean, I think I would have taken. I mean, I know it's week 3, but I think I still would have taken Aaron Jones over Caleb Johnson. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have taken Caleb Johnson personally at that point in time, unless I had like every intention of doing something later on and handcuffing him with Warren, because that's where I would have been concerned at that point in the time. Now he does have Bijan and Chase, so you're talking about his RB3, so it's really not the end of the world to try to stretch. But at this point, like I'm the type, like you said, if I'm looking at it in the draft, I always want to draft my starting lineup a lot. As much as I can potentially do, I'd like to get my starting lineup locked in almost right away. So, like, if I need to move my positions around to make sure that I don't get into my bench drafting yet on my actual starting roster. So, for example, if I have three flex spots, two flex spots, 3 receivers, 2 running backs, a quarterback, and tight end, I want to lock down each of those positions in my draft before I start grabbing a second quarterback, or before I start grabbing a second tight end, or like a 5th or 6th or 7th receiver or running back based on my breakdown. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I look at it. And in your situation right there with Caleb Johnson being your 3rd back, I don't really hate it per se, but I would have protected myself a few rounds later, and instead of taking another rookie running back, I would have gone with his running mate in that backfield. So that way, no matter what, I have Pittsburgh's guy.
Got you. All right. Let's roll into the next round. We got R.J. Harvey, Rome Odunze, T.J. Hockenson, Sam Laporta.
Should we go through all 12 picks so we don't have to?
Yeah,
we can kind of push through a little faster.
Yeah, we can do that. Brian Robinson Jr., Stephon Diggs, David Njoku, Joe Mixon, Matthew Golden, Chris Olave, Cooper Kupp, and Tyrone Tracy. So there's a couple picks I really like. I actually don't mind the Rome Odunze pick. Tom kind of drafts like I do. We try to load up on receivers. So being in that offense,
his team right there, I think preseason that team looks really solid so far.
Yeah, Tom always drafts a pretty good team. Like I said, he's locking up all his flex positions. Getting his starting lineup in there. So I actually like Rome Odunze. Being another year in that another year with Caleb, new offense. So I actually really like that pick, and actually one that I even though it's on my team, I'm a little surprised Chris Olave made it that far. He's definitely the number 1 in that offense. I know he's had some concussion issues, but I mean he's basically my 5th receiver. So if he can stay, even if he only plays 12 games out, if I only get 12 games out of him, I mean he's a number 1. Even though it's a bad offense, they're going to throw the ball. So I was really happy to get Chris Olave where I got him in that. So I do like the Odunze. I do like the Olave pick. It's unfortunate that we didn't get some better clarification out of Joe Mixon with his injury, but it's not looking good with the foot. So that might be kind of a wasted pick right there. But I don't think the NFL gods really helped us as far as like trying to make a decision on Joe Mixon. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you drafted Joe, and I'm a victim of it too. I got him in quite a few leagues because he was just falling to a point where it's like if he does come back in a few weeks, then you got yourself a steal. So, but it doesn't look good. No news is bad news in this scenario. I feel like so. Since we haven't heard anything, I don't know if that's going to be anything we can look forward to for this season. So we'll see. But as of right now, it's not looking great. Again, it's his 3rd back, but he's the one guy in this draft so far that I think I would say has made like the most like kind of questionable calls with where he would take the players that he's taken. Like maybe the most like reachy kind of drafter. I have a guy that I draft in a league with that does that a lot of times too in our leagues, and he's kind of it's a scenario where you basically know that this is going to be that guy who does things like this. So it's not like a horrible thing. It either works or it doesn't. It seems like most of the time it doesn't, but That's just my thing. I think that like consistently trying to take those chances is not usually going to work out for you. Maybe one or two a draft at the most. So other than that, I like your Olave pick. I do agree with everything you said. I think that's a great pick right there. I do really like the Remo Dunze pick also. I've got him in my big league, as you know, and I think he's turned into the number one in that offense, and I do think they're going to target him quite a bit throughout the season in an offense that's going to be scoring a lot of points, I hope. So at least going to be airing it out for the worst case scenario. I do think that other than that, I can't really pinpoint anything that stands out to me too much. I think the other picks are, about what you expect at this time of the draft.
Got you. Okay, let's roll through the next round. We got Jordan Mason, Bill Merritt, Tony Pollard, Evan Ingram, Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel, Mark Andrews, Khalil Shakir, Travis Kelce, Cam Scatterbo, Jaylen Warren, and Keon Coleman. I'd say my favorite. Now, Jordan Mason looks pretty good now that Aaron Jones is out, so that doesn't look like a bad pick right there. But I'm gonna go right back to Tom's team, and I'm gonna say I really like the Jaylen Warren pick. Warren should have went where Caleb Johnson was going, in my opinion. If you want to throw another one out there, possibly if we can get something out of Keon Coleman going forward, maybe that would be pretty nice. Going forward, we still don't really know who the number one is there in Buffalo, and I know you're really hoping that Keon takes a step going forward. So what do you think about this round?
I think there's quite a few good picks in this round, honestly. There's more good picks than bad picks, in my opinion. I think that Jordan Mason, Bill Merritt, and Tony Pollard, all of those three picks in a row like that are great picks. I think that they weren't in the right order at the time, but looking on it now, obviously Jordan Mason should have gone ahead, knowing that he's going to be the one moving forward for at least the next 4 weeks. So that order that they're in is good at this point in time now. But at the time, I think I would have probably maybe flipped it like this. But other than that, it's okay. They're still great picks. The next three picks, Evan Ingram at the time was a good pick. I know for where he fell in the tight end scenario. Jordan Addison, I think, will be a good pick once he's back. I think there'll be a lot of targets headed his way. Deebo Samuel, I think, has turned out to be a good pick, and I did like it at the time. So those are all picks that I would have been okay with. Mark Andrews, I would have probably been a little Kelce early in the season, I was a little Scadwell, I was a little I think Jaylen Warren, Keon Coleman are both good picks. So that's kind of where I stand. The Khalil Shakir over Keon, I think by this point in the year, I think I had to flip that because I just don't think that Khalil's going to have as many called plays to him. Khalil's going to be more the guy who's open when he comes open, whereas Coleman is going to have the back shoulder passes, the 50-50 balls, those types of things that usually turn into more touchdowns.
Got you. All right, let's hit the next round. This is the round of probably one of my favorite rounds here of the tight end and running back. I think there's a lot of really good picks in this round. You got Tyler Warren, great pick. Tucker Kraft, great pick. You got Dak and Mahomes. I think Mahomes was a really good pick. He's doing everything he can in that offense to score fantasy points. And even though they don't look very good, he's still scoring tons of fantasy points, and that's all we care about. We don't care about wins and losses. We care about fantasy points.
Yeah.
Travis Etienne, everyone was trying to figure out what that backfield was going to look like, and he looks like he's the lead back going forward. Like I said, I really like my J.K. Dobbins pick, and then the Zach Charbonnet pick. I think that's a really good pick too. So I really like the running backs and tight ends taken in this round, along with Pat Mahomes. How do you assess this round, Sean?
Exactly the same way you just did. I think that it's pretty much solid picks across the board. I really don't see any pick, with the exception of maybe the Jadon Blue move, that stands out to me as a little bit controversial. Everything else seems like they went with a guy that should have went at this point in the draft. So it doesn't sound bad at all. The Prescott over Mahomes, I think, is a little egregious. But, I can understand him wanting to, I guess, get a piece of that offense, thinking it was going to be a pretty solid offense. But I still think no matter what, I think I just got to take the second best quarterback in football and Patrick Mahomes over Dak Prescott. So other than that, no, it's all pretty solid.
Yeah, no, I missed out on Jaden Blue there. Yeah, that you can't take him over Javonte Williams. I mean, it's just but you can't
or even Zach Charbonnet. I mean, if you don't want to take Javonte because you're not happy with what he did and have some jaded feelings because a lot of fantasy players did, then take Charbonnet. He's better than Jadon Blue. At least he's got a piece of that offense. Where Jadon, you don't know what to expect at him, and so far he's not even making the game day roster. So it's definitely looking like a wasted pick at this point in the season, anyway.
Right. Next round, we got Wan'Dale Robinson, Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, Juwan Jennings. We have Ferguson. We got Bigsby, Shaheed, Bateman, Mooney, Jaden Higgins, Tillman, and then there's Javonte right there. So not super crazy about this round. I mean, obviously, Wan'Dale looks like he could be a pretty good target guy there. And then the other pick, I really, obviously, we didn't think it was going to be this good going forward, in the beginning of the season. But Javonte Williams, in that Dallas offense is looks like he's the true bell cow going forward. So pretty nice pick by the Badgers there because if you look at his team, I mean, he needed that pick. Taylor and RJ Harvey, he really needed.
Yeah. Especially with his next pick too, because that next pick hasn't even done anything for him either. So he's that if he didn't have Javonte, he'd have been in real bad shape in RB2.
Right. So anything else that sticks out to you that round, Sean?
Yeah, I think we can't go through this podcast, Scott, and let you get away with talking all good about all your good picks and not talk about this ridiculously horrible pick that you just made right here with Jaden Reed over some of these other guys that were on the board. Now, I understand that, the whole Green Bay offense and the whole, he could be the number one and all this. I mean, they did just draft a guy in the first round to prove that that's their number one. And don't be moving around all like trying to make me feel bad for you. I'm going to keep talking mess. You got to listen to this for a second. but this Jaden Reed pick, man, your team, you talked about a minute ago how Isaiah Pacheco was like the guy that you picked as your RB1. We just talked about how that was a potentially, troublesome situation that you got yourself into. And you had an opportunity with Javonte Williams staring you in the face at that pick. And you went with Jaden Reed, your wide receiver 6, instead of giving yourself some more coverage. I know you had already taken Dobbins and you had already taken Pollard, but you needed more coverage at running back than you did at receiver because your top 5 receivers were already set. There was no reason for you to go cray-cray on a 6th receiver right there. Lock in another running back opportunity like you have told me multiple times is draft a bunch in the last middle rounds so that you can cover yourself. Well, that's where you could have done it right there, and you missed the boat. And you deserve to get some little pop for it, dude.
No, I agree. I actually was looking at Javonte, and I was also looking at Kyler Murray. I mean, I was looking at Kyler Murray. He was there. I was thinking of locking down one of the last running quarterbacks, which is pretty valuable in this league. So, yeah, I probably, if I would have went back, probably should have passed on Jaden Reed, at least taken a look at Javonte or even taking Kyler Murray at that point. So, yeah, I agree. Sometimes
not like the injuries. I'm not going to use the injury. I give you some kudos there. He did have touchdown week 1, and he got a few targets, and he did look like he was going to get a touchdown on that play he got hurt on before he got hurt. So I don't hate the pick as much as it sounds like it's not as bad as it sounds like it is now because of the situation that's happened after his injury. But man, dude, your team build required you to take Javonte Williams over Jaden Reed right there.
Yeah, no, true. So yeah, so like I said, can't be perfect all the time.
So. I just had to give you some mess, man, because we've praised your picks throughout the entire draft. If you got a bad one, we got to talk about it. You don't get to gloss over it,
No, I know. So all right, let's roll in the second round or the next round. So we got Braylon Allen, Kyler. There's Kyler Murray that went to Tom. He obviously didn't let him pass with Kyler. Tyler Algier. So there's the handcuff to Bijan. Then it went Keenan Allen, which looks like a really good pick right now. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. There's Quinshon Judkins, Colston Loveland, Jerome Ford. I took Dylan Sampson, Jared Goff, and then Tajay Spears. So obviously, the Keenan Allen pick looks really good. I think really the best pick in this round, to be honest with you, is I like Tom's pick, finally getting a quarterback. He got the last of the running quarterbacks in Kyler Murray. So I really like, and we're talking about what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, the 11th round, getting a Kyler Murray. So I really like that pick a lot. What about you? What do you think about that?
I like that pick too. There's a guy that's still on the board at that position that I really am shocked that's still there, and that I would have loved to have gotten my hands on. But yeah, I don't hate Kyler at all. I do appreciate the idea of, like you're talking about, the running quarterback being that much more valuable. So it makes some sense there for sure that Kyler's the guy that goes off the board. But yeah, I definitely like that pick. I like the Keenan Allen pick. Quinshon Judkins, was an unknown at the time. That looks like it's turned into a great one, and then turn around and flip that coin. And your Dylan Sampson pick has gone from looking great after week 1 and 2 to now just being essentially just like a handcuff to Quinshon down the road. But we'll see how that all plays out long term. But I definitely don't hate it at the time. We talked about it a lot when we were drafting, that was a good move, good sneaky move at that point. So there's just one pick that I really don't like in this round, and that's the Tajay Spears pick. I just think that the rest of the picks all look like they're kind of a good pick. Nick Chubb going off the board behind Kareem Hunt and Braylon Allen also, I think, is something that shouldn't have happened. But otherwise, the Tajay Spears pick is probably the go to the round in my opinion. Or not goat, I should say. That's a bad term, but you know what I mean.
Yes. All right, we'll go to this next round, and we got Caleb Williams, we got Ollie Gordon, who's coming on here. I took Brandon Ayuk. We got Zach Ertz. We got Quentin Johnson, who looks like an outstanding pick right there. There's your man crush.
You're a great pick, Dalton Kincaid.
We got there's Najee of the Caribbean, Najee Harris. We got Adam Thielen, Luther Burton. We got Bichelle Rootin' Tootin', and we got Ramondre and CJ Stroud. So I am going to come out and say that this round here, the absolute worst pick in this round, and I wish I could have did this over again. I don't know why the hell, what I was thinking on drafting a guy who's going to be injured the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season when I had Justin Herbert staring me in the face and I could have taken him. And I don't know if I remember if I might have got confused and thought he was already taken, or I don't know what I was thinking, but
I know what you were thinking. You were doing a fucking draft on a sticker board and not on a computer. That's what you were thinking.
So yeah, so that to me was an epic.
If you didn't get the sort quarterback points, oh crap, Justin? Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that was to me an epic failure on my part. There's no reason I should have taken any position other than quarterback right there, and it should have been Justin Herbert. So I had an.
Hey, you know what? When stickers cost you. I mean, when you guys don't want to, start doing things electronically, things like this is going to happen.
Yeah, well, so that's my epic failure of the round. I'll go to you, Sean. You don't have to pile on. But
I can't help it. I gotta tease you, man. But no, I did. So I don't know if Scott's told you guys this, but I have a league that also did, up until the last couple of years, we did the same thing with the stickers and we had parties. And the only reason we stopped doing it is because half of the league is just no longer in the same city anymore. So it makes it a little more difficult. But otherwise, we did the same exact thing like you guys are talking about. The league's been around for like 27 years now or something crazy. So, we definitely understand like the sticker thing and just the enjoyment of that moment. I just like to tease because me and Scott are, a few different years apart in age, and he's kind of behind behind me as far as a curveball for the technology is concerned. So we always like to joke about it. It's a little bit more of a me messing with him than it is me hating on your stickers.
So, but anyway, so well, besides the epic failure that I did, is there one particular player in that round that you like at all?
Yeah, obviously my boy Kincaid, right? Gotta love on my boy Kincaid, local man from Vegas here. But other than that, I do like the idea of taking Najee at that point. I would have taken him and been happy as hell to have him because I really did think that he was going to be the RB1, which it still could happen. He definitely went from barely playing week 1 to like almost half of the snaps week 2. So I definitely think that he's pointing in the right direction at this point. Bashal Tutin is another guy that I really liked coming up. I think he was one of those sneaky guys that could potentially break his way into that offense. And so far, so good in that area. And then Ramondre being the number 1 right now in that offense has been really helpful for him too. So that's another good pick right there, looking like a steal. And you've already mentioned QJ, so I won't go into that. I do like that pick though also. So yeah, I do think it was a solid round for the most part, with the exception of like a Luther Burden. I don't think he should have been going off the board at that point, but other than that, it's pretty solid.
Got you. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. We're not going to go through the rest of the draft because at this point, Nick's Knuckleheads went on auto and took 4 straight defenses, which to me kind of had a little bit to do with the remaining guys taken in the draft. So what we're going to do is we're just going to
target for Justin Herbert, because we do have to talk about how that was an amazing pick at that point in the draft, and I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. We'll point out some guys that were taken, that were like, because this is where you call your shot, at this point of the draft. So, yeah, I think the best one obviously was Justin Herbert. I know there was a lot of talk that this offense was going to be very run heavy. And if you follow Michigan football, Jim Harbaugh does love his quarterbacks. And he and Michigan's always been a place that produces quarterbacks. So I didn't believe the hype on that. It was just going to be just a hand the ball off offense.
No, he went to that team specifically to coach Justin Herbert. He's not just going to be handing the ball off all the time.
Right, exactly. So I think Nuts and Bolts got a really good value on my screw up by taking Justin Herbert. Some other guys that kind of stood out, just in my opinion, just kind of looking real quick. I think Cheap Thrills got some pretty good value with Rachaad White.
Not to say you don't hate on your Jordan Love pick, because I do like the Jordan Love pick also. I just wouldn't have taken him over Justin Herbert, but I don't hate the Jordan Love pick.
No, I was happy he made it back to me, because I was really looking at some bad quarterbacks the rest of the way. Marquise Brown by Dynamic Duo wasn't that bad, knowing that Rashee Rice is going to be out for a little bit. I don't think that was that bad of a pick.
Yeah, Hollywood is definitely a good pick, I think, in that scenario for sure.
Right, and then one more that was Mr. Irrelevant, and that was Eric Iomanner. From Tennessee. He did get some buzz in the preseason, and he's actually looking like he's going to be a pretty good player for Cam Ward going forward. So not a bad pick for the last pick in the draft. But other than that, you're just calling your shots. Obviously, you see some defenses and kickers coming in, because with our format, we are letting people play defenses and kickers in the flex spot if they'd like. Some people think it's valuable, some people don't. That's why you see some teams that didn't draft a kicker defense at all, that don't believe in it. What's your take on that, Sean? Before we get on out of here, would you, in this format, would you even be investing in kickers or defenses at all?
No, let me ask you, what's your average scoring from those positions? Just like give me.
So on a good week, I think on a good week, the defense and kicker can score 20 to 25 points on a real good week. But on a bad week, they're just going to score.
Do you get negative points from time to time on a really bad?
Negative for missed field goals. You're going to get negative points. So what you'll do in the defense is you'll start off with, if I remember right, because I don't roster them. I think you start off with 20 points, and then it works its way down. So you start losing points. for yardage given up, but then
Yeah.
you gain them back by sacks and interceptions.
Is
So
it yardage based or is it point based as far as losing your points?
You're losing points on yardage and points.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we
So
start
you're
off with, I
similar
think,
to my league. I would. I'm not. So in my situation, I'm not a fan of that as far as the defenses are concerned. Now your kickers just score your general kicking. Like 5 points for 50-yarders.
Yeah, I think anything over 50 yards, I think they get like maybe 1 bonus point. So if it's like 55 yards, I think they get like an extra point. So
but not over 60 yards gets them any more points. Just that 1 extra bonus is the max.
That or might be 3. I'm not 100% sure, but might be 3. So I mean, somebody like Aubrey could be somewhat valuable, but like I said,
how many points did he score last week?
I don't even know. I didn't even look.
Okay, well, because that was like one of the best weeks for kickers you're gonna get, right? So
let me see. I can see what he scored real quick. Let me look real quick.
But while you're doing that, I'll give you my general opinion on kickers and defense, and it's makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. So I just don't. I think we've moved beyond that in fantasy. You know what I mean? Like when you first start playing fantasy, you thought kickers and defenses were necessary and this and that. But as fantasy's grown, there was a time when we didn't think like 2 quarterback leagues would ever even work. Like, what are you talking about? 2 quarterback leagues, you're barely going to have enough quarterbacks to even make it through a season and blah, blah, blah. But now, I mean, it's becoming almost a standard for super flex opportunities. So, I'm not, I think that this just fantasy itself has grown beyond those 2 positions as being important to a league. It's not to say that you don't need to have them, but to me, they just don't, it's not worth it, man. There's so much opportunity with a flex guy like a Marquise Brown or somebody else to really score you like one of your top players for the league. And you're never going to get that from a defense, and you're never going to get that from a kicker. So if that's the case, then like, I just don't see any reason why you want to have them there. And then now, if they do score well enough to be in that way, in that realm, I don't think that's right, because kickers are always going to score. Very rarely do you have a kicker who doesn't score. And sometimes you do have positions that don't score, your score or skill players that don't score in their positions. So if your kicker is scoring a lot of points and it's in a week, then that's not really right, because kickers are not supposed to impact the game that much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, okay. So to give you an idea, so last week, Brandon Aubrey scored 24.5 points, and that's with a 64-yarder and a 51-yarder. So we had 4 field goals and 4 extra points. Didn't miss anything, including a 64-yarder. So that's 24.5 points. Now, to give you an example, like Deebo Samuel scored 18.5 points. So he only scored 6 points less than the kicker who had an all-time great week. And Samuel's stat line was 7 receptions, 44 yards, and the 44 yards was a receiving touchdown. So he had a 44-yard receiving touchdown.
And that include a bonus with 44 yards?
Yeah.
Okay. So to me that means your kickers are scoring too much. Sorry to say. And I hate I'm not trying to dog your guys' league. I'm not a part of it, so I don't have any way of understanding fully the full scope of it. Going off of what we're talking about here, though, I don't think that kickers should influence a league as much as 26 points ever. That's just outrageous to me that a kicker does that well. Now, I say that to you guys because I'm also a little jaded, and Scott knows this, but my big league that I do with my friends, when I told you guys about earlier in this podcast, they have kickers set up to score outrageous points to the point to where our first kicker went off the board, I think in like the 6th round or something ridiculous, because they scored that many points a week and they are consistently scoring. Whereas some of our other guys score zeros on a regular basis because our scoring system is really like unique. So you do get a lot of goose eggs, or you get like a few hundred points, from guys. And these guys are constantly scoring hundreds and hundreds of points. And I ended up having a bad week last week, and I got outscored. My entire roster got outscored by Brandon Aubrey alone. So in my opinion, there's never a setting that should ever have that happen. So that's why I tell you that kickers should not be that valuable to a team, because otherwise, you're basically just taking away the skill that's involved in fantasy.
Right. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for this draft. Good draft. We play double headers every week, which is great. Scoring system's pretty good for the most part. So, other than that, though, you guys have a good season, and thanks for letting us break this down for you guys. And hopefully, we'll do this again next year.
Right. And absolutely, it was a lot of fun looking at your guys' draft board too. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you don't take offense to anything I have to say. I still think your league is pretty awesome.
So, all right, guys. All right, you guys have a great season. We'll talk to you soon.